Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 8th episode of the story in which a terrifying situation pushes Naruto to unleash something the ninja world has never seen before. Naruto now holds a position of enormous power. What is a troublemaker to do when he has the ability to appear wherever he wants? Please hit the subscribe and like buttons. Let's get this party started. Thane strode through his lab at a heightened pace. He was close, oh so close, to finishing his experiment. The village was a major victory for his test virus, but he still wasn't satisfied with the outcome of the virus. The people, according to his calculations, should have turned into monstrosities capable of beating most shonen ninja. The virus should have given them a blood thrust that was never quenched, turning them into mindless killing machines. They also should have had heightened senses and strength. The people of the village just turned into nothing more than flesh-hungry humans. Pitiful in every aspect, but not a complete failure. He was tweaking the virus since then and has produced major results, much to the Akatsuki's pleasure. He was currently working with Zetsu on the experiment, using one of his clones to test. The results were astonishing. The clone not only grew in both size and chakra capacity, but also turned into what could only be described as a monster from most people's nightmares. Thane smiled down at the creature as it devoured another civilian doctor who was tossed into the pin by Thane. Thane stood from the observation deck above the pit that the creature was currently feasting in. It continued to tear the poor doctor limb from limb as others only took notes outside the pit, studying its ferocity. "Seems we have created a success," Zetsu's black half said as he crossed his arms. "What village should we target?" "We shall infect a small village to make an army," Thane said as they smiled down at the creature. It looked to be between a human and a scaled monster plant. The arms had elongated bones that were protruding from their elbows and fingers, doubling as weapons and defense. Thane smiled at his creature as if a mother to a newborn. "And then we shall march them to Konoha to test them in battle." "As you wish, Thane-kun," the white Zetsu said as he disappeared, leaving Thane to smile down at his creation. "Let's have a little fun," Thane said as his clawed-like hands tapped the metal railing overlooking the pit. "No," yelled Tsunade as she slammed her hand on the desk. "I can't have 4 of my personal guard disappearing on a wild goose chase." "But..." Ino started as she crossed her arms over her chest and gave the pouty lip. Ino had approached Tsunade with Temari and Kankuro to ask for a small team to help them chase down Orochimaru. So far, the results were not faring very well for them. "No buts," Anko yelled as she stood up from her place at Suon's left. "We can't afford to leave the village as defenseless as it is now. If we send you and the team you asked for, we would be nearing our reserves." "Is that what you want?" "No sensei," Ino said defeated. Temari huffed and crossed her arms. "Well, we still have to follow up on this lead," Temari said as Kankuro stepped forward. "We will only gather what we can and not engage." "I cannot stop you," Tsunade said with a glare. "But I implore you to wait till we can send a team with you. Naruto and his team should be arriving in a couple of days, and when we have them back, we can send out your squad." "Deal," Ino said happily as she bounced on her toes happily. "Hokage-sama." A voice shouted as an Anbu with an eagle mask appeared in the room. He was wounded, bleeding from what looked like several puncture wounds on his chest. He fell to his knees and hacked up some blood from behind his mask. "We lost contact with Outpost 6. When we went to investigate, we ran into monsters. They are heading here as we speak, only hours out." "How many?" Tsunade asked as she appeared before him with glowing hands. The Anbu coughed out again before he turned towards her, his body shaking. "Thousands," he whispered out his last words as he fell to the ground. "Team Anko," Tsunade shouted as Ino stood at attention. Anko snapped to attention as well. "Gather the black leaves and get to the wall. You are to each to take positions at all gates with Choji and our heavy hitters at the main gates. Temari, I know this isn't your fight, but you forget my husband is a Konoha shinobi," she said with a smirk as she pointed to a second headband that was tied to her arm, much like the lazy Nara's. "I will get Shikaku to aid you since Shika's gone." "Thank you," Tsunade said as she walked behind the desk and 3 other Anbu appeared. "Get the civilians to the shelters and bring all available ninja to the defensive perimeter." "Ino," Anko shouted as she moved towards her as the Anbu disappeared. "Make sure to keep our girls alive out there." "Hi Anko-sensei," Ino said before she disappeared in a swirl of leaves. "Shina-kun's been gone for too long," Haku pouted to Ken and Tuya as the 3 girls walked towards the barbecue restaurant that they were meeting Kiba and Choji in. They spent the majority of the day training and had taken a break to go meet up for some food. They walked the streets, listening the impending storm coming as the thunder and lightning streaked through the sky. A slight mist could be felt from the rain that was soon to be pouring over the village. "Tell me about it," Tuya said with a huff. I haven't seen my man in almost 2 weeks. As soon as he gets back we are not leaving the bedroom for 2 days. I have first dibs to Yakan. Tamari's voice came from behind them. Tuya turned and shot a quick glare, but softened a bit when she noticed the seriousness of her face. Ino appeared on the other side of her dressed for battle, which caused the other girls to raise an eyebrow. "Suit up," Ino said in her commanding tone. "Report to the main gate in 2 minutes." "So what are we all waiting for, Ino?" Kiba asked as he looked out into the forest that surrounded Konoha. Ino sighed as she looked up from watching Choji at the main gate with several seasoned Jonin getting into position. Apparently Outpost 6 was lost and a team of Anbu were sent to investigate, Ino said as a sprinkle of rain began to fall on them. The entire squad was wiped out aside from one who relayed the message that they were attacked by some sort of army of monsters. "Monsters?" Tenten asked. "You mean like the zombies that we fought in the village?" "Much worse," Ino said as she rubbed her temples. I was able to peek into his mind. "They are truly horrific. How many are we dealing with?" Neji asked as his eyes flared to life and he stumbled a bit. "1,000, Ino said skeptically. The others faltered for a moment before Lee stepped forward. "Fear not," Lee said with a smile. The rain began to pour harder as he held his hand out, then clenched a fist facing the forest. "The weather is wonderful for a most youthful match. And I swear on my life that I will protect your backs as I know you all will watch mine. Let's show these monsters what true monsters lurk in Konoha." "You idiot," Sakura said as she blushed at her boyfriend's brashness. The others laughed heartily at the speech, but it did the job. Everyone was ready and the small amount of fear that was in them was gone. "They're here," Neji yelled as he jumped down to the gates. The others turned to see the first wave of what looked like mutated humans charged forward. Choji appeared before the group of Jonin, expanding his giant fist and slamming the first wave into the ground and slapping away several more. The Jonin jumped into action, dispatching the rest. Ino smiled down at her man as he continued to destroy the monsters coming close to gate. Neji was at Choji's back as the two worked in sync, dispatching several more. Then a loud roar was heard and hundreds of monsters appeared at the tree line which surrounded Konoha. They were more organized than last time, almost as if someone was finally giving them orders. The thousands of mutilated husks were roaring in unity, as if trying to intimidate them. A horde of 50 creatures charged forwards to attack the main gate. Choji's hearty chuckle reverberated over the roar of the creatures. Choji and Neji stood before the Jonin, who stepped back slightly in fear of the oncoming horde. "Any of you who wish to step 1 foot past this gate has to go through me," Choji shouted towards the army of creatures as he expanded several times his size and bulldozed towards the horde of monsters. Before the feral creatures could react, they were flattened by the giant boulder as it changed directions and headed back towards the gates. He jumped out of the jutsu and landed on one knee in front of the gate, pulling out 2 kunai. "Next challenge. Can't let Choji-kun have all the fun, can we, girls?" Haku asked as she pulled down her hunter's mask. The girls laughed and followed suit as they each adorned their mask and jumped into action. They began the containment and funneled the army towards the heavy hitters, giving Choji and the rest easy pickings. Lee was a flash of green. Each of his hits could be heard over the thunder that was erupting over their heads almost constantly. He finished off 6 creatures with quick kicks to their heads, separating them from their bodies. "I found their weakness," Lee exclaimed as the bodies fell to the floor. Sakura and Kiba looked over at him as he gave them the thumbs up. "Without their heads, they're useless." "Damn it, Lee," Kiba laughed out as he and Akamara charged towards a giant group of creatures. "Why didn't we think of that?" Kiba erupted with his fang over fang, cutting through the group like butter, and appeared on the other side with his dragon fangs covered in blood. Sakura appeared behind him, smashing a fist into a straggler, exploding the head upon impact. "Maybe crude," Sakura said as she spun and delivered another punch, dislodging another head. "But effective. These creatures are different. They were at one time humanoid, but now they are ugly," Ino's voice said as a kunai embedded itself in a creature behind Sakura. "Watch your ass, Sakura." "Thanks, Inakin," Sakura replied as she spun and noticed 10 monsters slashing out with their elongated fingers. The bones protruding were razor sharp and the creatures had wicked speed, which proved to be a bad combination. "How much longer do we have to wait here?" Kisame mumbled as he fumbled with his sword. One of the many creatures looked over at him and gave a hiss, causing Kisame to growl back. "And these freaks are weird, Thane. I think of these creatures as my offspring of sorts," Thane answered with a narrowed eye. "You best hold your tongue." "Regardless," Itachi interrupted as he stared out at the battlefield. "How are you controlling them?" "I have put them under a type of genjutsu that allows me to command them to a certain extent," Thane said as he rubbed his clawed-like hand against his jacket. "So we have them softening up the defensives without having to break a sweat. Now, where is that annoying boy?" "You mean the QB container?" Kisame asked, now intrigued. I would have expected him to be here fighting on the front line. He must be out of the village, Itachi said as he sighed. This was a waste of time then. Let's go, Kisame. Wait, Thane said as he looked at the two of them. Why don't we send him a nice welcome home message? What do you mean? Kisame asked as he tilted his head. I mean we send the rest of my army in, Thane said and gave a flick of the wrist. The entire army stood. It looked like a sea of grey sprinting towards the main gate as hundreds, closer to thousands charged forward. And you can play with some of his precious people if they survive this. It would be a way to drag him out of hiding, Kisame said with a smirk as he turned back towards the battle. And I wouldn't mind getting a bit of exercise. Fine, Itachi said as he turned back towards the battle. He closed his eyes and sent a silent prayer to whoever would actually listen. This doesn't look good, Kiba huffed as he stood back to back with Neji. Tenten, a little cover over here. Right. Tenten huffed as a shower of kunai cut through the storm and connected with the first wave of monsters that were attacking. Tenten detonated the tags, launching bodies of the creatures high into the air. Hee hee, gotta love it. Nice shot, Ten, Neji yelled as he finished off another creature. Kiba sliced through a couple of when they heard the more explosions. They turned to see Lee and Sakura jumping over a group of creatures and landed next to them in front of the main gate. So, Kiba said as he stared down the giant horde that was slowly approaching them. I'd say we put up some great numbers today, not to brag, but I'm pushing close to 60. You got me by 10, Sakura said as she fell back behind the three boys, healing some minor wounds on them as they set up a small defense. Lee's closer to 80 thou. My flames are burning with the heat of 1,000 suns, Lee yelled as he kicked another creature, sending him crashing into a small group. You are still playing that stupid game? Neji asked, truly shocked that he was the only one to really see the life or death situation they were in. The giant horde charged forward as the four took their defensive positions in front of the main gate. A loud puff was heard and a giant man fell from the sky and landed on the horde, dispatching the rest of them. Choji rolled back to them and landed on one knee, shaking from churka exhaustion. Kiba smirked down at the big man as he slowly climbed to his feet and walked towards them. He had stab wounds and cuts littering his body, but he seemed fine asides the blood loss and chakra exhaustion. I told them they wouldn't get past this gate, Choji said as he fell forwards and Kiba caught him. Choji coughed as Kiba pulled him back and let Sakura have a look at him. Choji smirked as Lee and Neji took out the remaining hordes with the help of Team Anko. Hide me before Ino finds out. Is that all of them? Kiba asked as Neji scanned the battlefield. Bodies littered the entire forest outside the walls, soaking the ground in not just rain, but blood. Neji gave a shake of his head and pointed. We have another 100 or so left, Neji said as the remaining bit of army walked out of the tree line. Neji could feel his exhaustion and knew his teammates were just as tired. Kiba walked beside him and nudged him. Neji looked down to see a clawed hand holding 2 solider pills. You're going to need a pick-me-up, Kiba said as he popped one in his mouth. Lee catch. Huh? Lee asked as he turned as Kiba flicked a pill into his mouth. Lee chewed with vigor and gave the thumbs up. Let's fan our flames of youth. Damn it, Neji said as he chewed his pill. Now he will be up forever. Team Anko report. The other gates haven't been as affected, Haku said as she appeared behind Neji. They are sending their remaining Jonin to help here. ETA? Neji asked as the remaining army broke into a full sprint towards them. 2 minutes, Haku said as she created an ice sword and slashed through several creatures. Orders are to hold them back till back arrives, then we are to retreat and rest up. Sakura, Neji said as he looked back. Get Choji back inside. Tenten and Lee will cover you while you heal him up. We can take care of these guys. No prisoners, Haku coldly said as she took off towards the group. You heard the lady, Kiba yelled as he and Akamaru started up their fang over fang. They sliced cleanly through them as Neji jumped into the fray, dispatching as he ran. My, came a new voice as from behind Haku. Haku spun and slashed out at the intruder who caught her ice sword with his bandage-wrapped sword. You're a feisty one. Kisame, hissed Haku. Oh, I see you've heard of me, Kisame said as they stood opposite of one another. Rain continued to fall around them as he flashed a grin. You're that punk Zabuza's daughter. Oh, how fitting, 2 for the price of 1. What are you talking about? Haku asked as she assumed a defensive stance. The rest of Team Anko was busy taking out the remaining creatures, leaving her, at the moment, alone. Oh, don't give me that now, Kisame said as he licked his lips. I just can't wait till he hears I not only mutilated your body but also. He didn't get a chance to continue the threat as Haku attacked, kicking him across the head, quickly sending him skidding across the wet ground, only for him to explode into water. Haku ducked as Kisame's sword passed over her head, missing her by an inch. Haku rolled out, slashing her ice sword towards his legs. He dodged the attack only to press his advantage. Haku felt bone-searing pain as she was kicked in the stomach and launched off her feet. She then felt the pommel of the Kisame's blade smash into her back, causing her to scream in pain and fall to the floor. Haku tried to crawl away from the chuckling man as he walked up to her slowly. "I love when you scream," Kisame said slowly as he placed his blade on her left arm and yanked it quickly. Blood filled the air as she let out another scream of pain. "Oh yes, this will be fun." "Such a shame really," Itachi said as he kicked another of the masked ninjas across the face. "I had such high hopes for Konoha. You are truly worthless. We can't let him get away," Ino yelled out as she sent out a torrent of poison-tipped senbon. They struck home only for Itachi to explode into ravens. Ino felt a blade pass quickly into her shoulder and she quickly looked down to see Itachi had placed a kunai into her right shoulder. She was kicked aside only to be caught by the rest of the girls. Kin pulled Ino to the back as Tuya put up a defensive position. "I tire of this game," Itachi said as Flash threw hand signs. "You three will do fine for the message I need to send to Naruto-kun. Prepare to die. You are truly adept with your dojutsu." Thane mocked as he slashed Neji across the back. "Ah, but you've got a blind spot, right here." "What are you?" Neji asked. Ki blade broken and bleeding to Neji's left. Thane was mocking them as he pranced around in the puddles of rain and patting the creatures that surrounded them on the heads. "Do you like my new creations?" Thane asked as he turned to the struggling Hyuga. "I do want to experiment on a Hyuga, and one who's as adept as you. My you are quite the find." "Go to hell," Neji spat as he hobbled to his feet. "Such attitude," Thane exclaimed as he put his hands on his hips. "To think I didn't want to feed you to my children, but now they look hungry, don't they?" "I'm not one for repeating myself," Neji said with a bloodied smirk. "But you seem a little thick." "Go to hell." Neji launched himself forward, his eyes ablaze and palms glowing. Neji struck home only for Thane to explode into mud. Neji tried to spin around to block the next attack, but was too slow as Thane's bone sword slid into Neji's shoulder, dropping him to his knees. Thane stared down at the young man, licking his lips. "You know your blood is so tasty," Thane said as he licked his clawed hands. "I might just have to finish you." Thane didn't finish the sentence as he was launched back by a devastating punch that he wasn't prepared for. Thane landed in a heap next to his creatures and looked up. Standing where he was once before was a glowing Hyuga woman with a half mask. She held Neji upright for a moment before she created two clones who carted both Neji and Kiba away. The aura she was giving off was causing Thane's eye to become a bit compulsive as it was disrupting almost everything it touched. She turned her eyes to face Thane, who smiled down at her. Yes, this was going to truly be fun. "Goodbye," Itachi said as he finished his hand signs. Before he could finish the jutsu completely, all three girls erupted in a fire explosion and Itachi was blown back into a tree. Itachi slowly pulled himself out of the tree to see an orange glow slowly dissipating to reveal a smirking Naruto. "You miss me this much?" Naruto asked as he motioned to the dead bodies that littered the floor. "You just had to come knocking for an ass-kicking, huh?" "Oh Naruto-kun," Itachi said softly. "I truly wished you hadn't come. And you think I would just let you get by with hurting my kid sister?" Naruto asked as he slowly flickered with chakra. "You've got a whole world of pain coming, buddy. Now I think we should get down to the more fun part," Kisame said as he leered down at Haku. "The moment Zabuza hears of this, I wish I could see his face, but first I like to tenderize my meat before enjoy it." Kisame walked towards the struggling Haku, who turned over to watch him approach. Kisame placed his sword next to Haku's other arm and was about to retch it back when his instincts reacted. Kisame was cut cleanly into his side, causing him to grunt in pain. He looked down to see a flash of green and gray and he was kicked squarely in the chest. "Your first mistake today was thinking you could attack Konoha and get away from it," stated a monotone voice. Haku looked up to see Shino crackling in chakra as he slowly held up his sword towards the legendary swordsman of mist. He was different and she was beyond happy he was here. She watched with slight tears in her eyes as he shook with rage. She turned to Kisame, who was a bit taken aback by the influence of ki he was emitting. "Not only did you make that grave mistake, you pushed it to something I will not forgive. You attacked my wife. You will die here and now." "Naruto-kun," Itachi said softly as he deflected a tonfa strike. Naruto smirked as he erupted in a flashbang clone. "You need not to fight me?" Itachi whispered as he dodged a punch, then tried to strike back. "You were the one who was giving Jiraiya-sama his info," Naruto whispered back as he kicked Itachi in the side of the head only for him to explode in smoke. Itachi slashed out with his kunai only for Naruto to explode with a frag clone. "Yes," Itachi answered back as he shielded himself with the blast and jumped back, creating space. You seem to have put me at a crossroad. I could fall back and continue my mission, but I feel that we will both be needed to take out the monster. So will you trust me? You're asking me to trust you, Naruto asked as he crossed his arms over his chest. The man who just tried to kill my little sis. The man who murdered his entire clan. Yes, Itachi said as he put his kunai away. Sure, why not? Naruto said with a shrug. Itachi face faulted. Kisame ducked under another sword slash then flashed through hand seals. He launched a torrent of water from his mouth that struck Shino in the chest only for a log to be shredded to pieces. Shino smirked as he ran through a series of seals and put his finger to his mouth. He blew out a stream of bubbles that filled the entire area. Kisame looked on as the bubbles flashed with chakra and exploded. Kisame substituted himself and only received light damage. He landed in a large tree and leaned heavily against the branch. His side was still gushing blood and for some reason wouldn't heal. He looked at the destruction left behind by the attack and smirked. So you got teeth? Kisame taunted. Let us see if you can use them. Shino walked out into the clearing and stared up at Kisame. Kisame noticed how calm and collected the young kid was and it began to infuriate him. Kisame jumped down and landed opposite of him. You don't seem worried, Kisame said as he pulled himself into his fighting stance. You're wasting your last words, Shino said as he slowly lowered himself into his stance. You will die here and now. That's it, Kisame yelled as he charged forward. With a swing of his sword, Kisame launched a wave of water towards Shino. Inside the wave, several sharks swam towards Shino snapping their jaws. Shino seemed unfazed as he took his sword out and channeled chakra into it. The wave was feet away when Shino slashed out with his sword. The sword released a giant wave of pure chakra that split the wave, parting it around an unharmed Shino. Kisame charged forward slashing out again with his sword only for Shino reached him halfway and blocked the attack with his sword. Shino kneed him in the stomach and slashed out quickly. Kisame jumped back in time to only receive a slash over his chest. Shino jumped out of Kisame's reach and flashed through another set of hand seals. He spat a stream of fire towards Kisame who absorbed it with Samata. He smirked but felt another stabbing pain in the calf of his right leg. He looked down to see Shino, glowing slightly with the chakra cloak standing behind him. His sword pierced straight through his leg. How? Kisame asked as Shino yanked his sword out of his leg. Shino spun and kicked Kisame in the back launching him into the air. Kisame disappeared into a cloud of smoke causing Shino to duck just in time as a fully formed Samata slashed through the air where his head was just at. Shino rolled to the left and slashed out only for it to be blocked by the oversized sword. Kisame licked his lip as a blood rage was slowly building within him. He harmed your mate? Rakubi said into Shino's mind. Shino only nodded to himself as an answer. His eyes never leaving Kisame who was flashing through hand seals. Unforgivable. Make him suffer. Shino smirked as he suddenly felt an influx of chakra. Shino's entire body was covered with a chakra cloak with two tails. Kisame released his attack as a giant water dragon flew towards him. Shino shimmered and appeared behind Kisame who reacted quickly by swinging his sword at Shino blocked with his sword. Shino was kicked and was launched into the air. He landed in a heap and coughed a bit. Kisame smirked as he charged forward. Shino stood and smirked as he snapped his fingers. Kisame's eyes bulged and he fell to his knees. What's going on? Kisame yelled as he wrenched himself forward vomiting blood onto the ground. What did you do to me? I'm an Aburame, Shino said with a smirk as he watched the immense pain that Kisame was going through. Who was also trained to be one of the strongest assassins in the Konoha. You were dead from the start. The cut, Kisame yelled as he looked down at his side. He stared in horror as a black cloud of nano-insects crawled over his body. You deposited insects in me from the beginning. I told you at the beginning, Shino said as he sheathed his sword. You will die here and now. My insects have reached your brain, both lungs and your heart. You were just toying with me the entire time, Kisame said with a chuckle as Shino nodded. They called me a monster. Hee hee, I see now that you are truly terrifying. Goodbye Kisame Hoshigaki, Shino said as he snapped his fingers one last time. Kisame's scream of pain filled the area as he was slowly being eaten alive from the inside out. Shino stared the entire time as Kisame began to bleed from his eyes, ears, nose and mouth. Kisame fell forwards one last time landing in a pool of blood gurgling. His last breath wheezed out. Shino let out a breath he had no idea he was holding. He walked over and picked up his sword and sealed it in a scroll. He turned to Kisame's body and flashed through hand seals. Fire spewed from his mouth turning the old swordsman body to ash. Another Hyuga, Thane said with a smirk as he dodged her strikes. Hinata jumped back with a smirk under her mask. Gobi's missed, she yelled as she let out flux of chakra. The entire area became encased in mist and Thane's eyes widened a bit. This was no ordinary mist. It was steam, super hot steam that was slowly burning into his skin. Once more the mist was made his eye useless. Thane looked around the area as his bones slowly started to encase him. Then there was a flash and he reacted purely on instincts. A sword lodged itself into his arm. "Very clever," he said with a smirk as he slashed out at her only for her to phase out into the mist. He dodged another sword slash that was aimed to take out his head. He turned and connected with something solid. Only it wasn't his target. It was Naruto who was smirking. Naruto blocked the slash with his tonfa and slashed out with the other one, releasing his wind chakra. Thane tried to evade it but the chakra cut through his left arm, severing it from his body. Naruto smirked and jumped back into the mist. "You!" Thane screamed only for Itachi to appear behind him and releasing a fire dragon that connected with Thane's back. Thane was launched forward and landed with a sick thud as he tried to pull himself up. He looked around, truly frightened for the first time. "You've betrayed us, Itachi," Thane yelled out into the burning steam that coated the area. "You will answer for your crimes. You think you're leaving here alive?" said a voice to Thane's right. He spun and launched his clawed hand into Naruto's chest only for him to explode in a frag clone. Thane was fading in when he felt arms encircle around him. He looked up to see Zetsu smiling down at him. "Thane-kun," he said softly. "You're all beat up. Don't tell me that they did this to you?" "We have to get out of here," Thane said as Zetsu just smiled as he slowly pulled Thane into the ground with him. "So you're finished with the recon?" Jiraiya asked as he sipped his tea. Across from him Itachi mirrored his action and set his tea down on the table. "What can you tell me?" "Thane is injured so I suspect that he won't be any problem for a time being," Itachi started as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a scroll. "Kisame is dead, so that should make it easier. Toby is an interesting case, he acts foolish, but he is undoubtedly powerful. Then there is his partner, Zetsu. He was a spy without equal. The one who dubs himself God is rightfully so. I can't even beat him. I wasn't even able to lay a finger on him. He possesses a dojutsu I've never seen before." His eyes are rippled. "What?" Jiraiya asked as he slammed his cup down shattering it. "He can apostrophe T. You swear on what you've seen?" "Yes Jiraiya-sama," Itachi said truly shocked. "What's wrong?" "This whole thing just got more complicated," Jiraiya said as he rubbed the sides of his head. "I have to talk to Tsuhime." "Since when are we on pet names?" Itachi asked with a hint of a smile. Jiraiya just slugged him in the back of the head as he walked away. Shino stared at his future wife as she slept calmly in the hospital bed. How he had no clue, for Ino and Anko were yelling at each other in the bed across from them. Choji sat at Ino's side with a grin as he watched her argue with her sensei. Shino's attention turned back to the sleeping beauty beside him. He reached out and held her hand with his. She slowly opened her eyes and smiled at him. He smiled back and leaned forward and planted a kiss on her forehead. She leaned up and looked at the scene in front of her. "So I'm guessing Ino got injured?" she asked above a whisper. Shino only nodded and held her hand. "What about you? Did you defeat Kisame?" "He will no longer be a bother," Shino said as he felt her hand tighten her grip. "You killed him?" she asked as she looked up at him. "He harmed you," Shino said with a broken voice. She slowly reached up and removed his glasses and stared at his eyes. "And I swore that when you became my wife that I would protect you from harm, and whoever causes harm to you will know a fate worse than death. But we haven't married yet," she said with a sly smirk. Shino scoffed under her gaze. "Still counts," Shino said as he leaned forward and kissed her softly. "Wait till Dad finds out you killed a swordsman," Haku whispered against his lips. "Especially Kisame. They hated each other. I guess he can owe me one," Shino said as he leaned his forehead against hers. She giggled as she entwined her hands in his hair. "You seem happy about it as well. Get me home and I'll show you how happy," she said with a smirk. Shino placed his glasses back on and they both disappeared in a swirl of leaves. "All I asked was for you to watch out for the girls," Anko yelled as she pointed to Ino's injured shoulder. "You could have died. You're lucky Itachi was on our side from the beginning." "You didn't know that," Ino yelled back as she crossed her arms. Choji chuckled from her side getting the attention of both women. "Oh don't even get me started on you. You always end up injured." "I didn't do anything," Choji said with a smirk. "But Anko-sensei, you have to understand. We fought against two class missing nin. On top of that we got out of it by taking out one of them as well." "Doesn't matter," Anko said as she turned with a huff. "Just you wait till you are able to train. You're gonna regret it." "What about Haku?" Ino yelled as she pointed across the room to the now empty bed. "What the hell?"
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.